Our next topic is arrays within a class. So if we have a class called A, and inside that, like other data member, suppose integer A is normal data member, so we can have another array. Suppose name of the array, suppose A R. So this can be the part of the class data member, and we can have member functions, add. So the array will be manipulated with for loop or other loops dynamically, or manually can be also accessed, like a of 0 is equal to 10. So in this case the array will be accessed in the function to insert values inside the array, or to manipulate those information to produce the desired result. So what is the array? We already discussed in C. You can go through the chapter where uh, the array is discussed. You can go through the video where the arrays are discussed in C programming classes, what I already uploaded. So array is nothing but a collection of similar type of data. Suppose if array AR is integer array, so this array, the AR, will be holding information 5, 10, 20, 30 based on the user requirement, any integers, and this will be the location. So a of 0 means 5, a of 3 means 0, 1, 2, 3, 30. This will be 30. So this way the array stores the similar information in with a single name. So it's a single variable, but having multiple memory locations, so that dynamically we can store similar information and we can access those information. So let us go further to the next concept. The next concept, and these are the concepts I've been discussing throughout this series of lectures. So eventually I will be writing programs also. So now memory allocations for objects, the new concepts which are being discussed will be the concepts will be implemented through programs. Now I'm just giving like a logical example with a segment of code. So full program will be written in depth C++, and every concept will be implemented there further. So now the next concept is memory allocation for objects. So memory allocation for objects. So memory allocations for object means when we create an object, if a class A, we want to create an object O1, so that O1 will be stored in the memory, and how much memory it will take will be the size of the O1. The size of the O1 will be the total size of the data members which are there in the class. Suppose integer A, B, and C. So these are the three data members in a class A. So the total size, the size of the O1 will be suppose each integer holds 2 bytes. This is the architecture of the machine. Then it will be 6 bytes. And if any machine giving 4 bytes to integers, so in this case it will be 3 into 4, 12 bytes. So here we are considering, suppose every integer is given 2 bytes of memory space. So in this case the total size of the object O1 will be 6 bytes. And what about the member function? Suppose we have a member function called add. So this actually manipulates the data member in an object-oriented programming. So we have data and functions together in an object logically. So this function access the information or access the data member to produce the desired information. So in this case, the function which actually is there inside the class, so the function will be stored once, and only one copy of the function will be available to any number of objects of this of the particular class. So in that case, every object will not have their own function. So in that case, we are considering that the total size of an object is the total size of the data members d1, d2, d3, like that. And the function, it will be a copy. Suppose add is the function of class, we are talking about a class A. In that case, we are having multiple objects, so the function will be common for all the objects, and it will be separately stored. In that case, A, B, C, data members A, B, C, it is O1 and it is O2 and it is O3. So they are separately, the A is separately created for each and every object from the class A. So in that case, this is the total size of the object O1, object O2 and object O3. So object 1 will be 6 bytes. If you are giving 2 bytes to every integer, so it will be the summation of this total the number of data members available in that class practically. So this is called the memory allocation of objects. So very nicely it is described in object oriented programming with C++ book by Ibala Gurusamy. So go through that, and if it comes in the exam, so you can write very easily. You have understood the concept, and there is nothing tough about this. So let's go to the next section. In that case, so if we make a member function static, so if we make one member function static means a variable which is a part of the class A. Suppose we have a variable A and another variable is called static int, suppose C. So C is a static variable. So in that case, C, it has properties, a few properties which is actually not similar to this normal variable. So static variable having some special characteristics. So what are the characteristics? It is initiated to 0 when the first object of its class is created. No other initialization is permitted. What does it mean? That when we create a class, and when we create object of that class, suppose O1 is our object. So in that case, when we create object, so in that case, O1 is having naturally we may think that O1 will be having A and C, two data members, but in this case C will not be the part of the O1. It will be separately stored elsewhere, and the class will be associated with that as it is a part of the class, but no object will be, it will not be a part of the object, but it will be available to every object, means every function, and means entire program it will be alive in this C. So this is called static data member, and the characteristic is that, so when the object is created, the class and the variable is created, and when the first object is initialized, means when we are trying to create the object of class A, in that case the static variable will be initialized to 0. No further initialization will be possible, and every object will can manipulate this with the help of the function, and this will be static in nature. So in that case, the concept is that if we are having object 1, object 2 and object 3, in that case it will be a copy, and it will be available to this, it will be available to this, and it will be available to this. And if the value of C is initialized to 0, then if this makes it 1, so when it makes it 2, So when it makes it the variable 3, so it will be automatically upgraded, and we can keep a count. So this sort of count type of variables we create always as static, because it should not create multiple copies. So in that case, multiple copies of C will not be created while creating the objects, but only one copy which is associated with the class will be created. So syntax of creating a static variable, it is the declaration, and definition will be like that. Here it is the definition of the static data member, which is actually outside the class. You have to write the class name and the scope resolution operator and the variable name, and this is the type. So in that case, you have to define uh, the static variable. So it is the definition, is the syntax how you deal with the static variable. The fundamental concept is this variable, it will be a variable of class. Sometimes it is called that it's a class variable, it's not an object variable or object element, it's a class variable, and no copies will be created, only one copy will be created, and it will be available to the entire program. Any function can manipulate this while calling the function with the object name. Means this state variable is available to this object, any number of object created from that class. So this is the fundamental of static variable, so static data member. And if you create a static member function, so what are the characteristic of static member function? A static member function can have access to only other static members, function or variables declared in the same class. A static member function can be used using the class name instead of its object name. So likewise, static data member, we have static member function, which is a special kind of member, which is having special characteristics, that this function will access the static data member, and it will be odd member function, and not the normal data member or member function. It will access those. And the other thing is that the call, when you call a static member function class A, so in that, if you have a static member function, suppose you have a static member function, so syntax, we will write correct syntax while writing the program. So here you can call the function in the main, but you have to use the class name without with this one, the object name. It is not possible to call the static member function, because it's not a part of the object, it is a part of the class. So this is the call. So we can call the function, suppose the function is mf, the static function. So this way you will be calling. So this is the concept of static member function. So we go to the next section called arrays of object. So like other integer variables, we can create arrays. So we can create arrays of objects also. So arrays of object, suppose we have a class called A. So we have a data member d1, d2. We have a data member d1, d2 and d3, suppose like this, suppose integer, and we have some function f1, f2. So in that case, we want to create object of that class. In main, we create object. So the class A, object 1, object 2, object 3. So in that case, we are creating 3 objects. So another concept is that we can create arrays of objects. So if we create OR, so OR is an object, but it's an array of object, suppose 5. So here OR 0 is one object, OR 1 is another object, OR 2 is another of, likewise OR 4 is another object. So here are how many objects? 5 objects, but name same name, but with the index we can utilize all this. So dynamically we can call functions, and we can give inputs to the that array of objects. So each array element is an object and can be initiated, can be utilized with the dynamic loop structure. So this is another concept, array of objects.